Chinua Achebe's poem, Vultures, was written in the aftermath of World War II and during the Nigerian Civil War, a time when Achebe grappled deeply with violence, suffering, and moral contradictions. The poem meditates on the paradoxical existence of tenderness and cruelty within the same being, whether human or animal. Achebe's central idea is simple but disturbing. Even the most monstrous figures are capable of love, and even the most tender acts can coexist with unspeakable evil. Through the unsettling image of vultures and a Nazi officer, Achebe delivers a complex reflection on the nature of evil, love, and hope. The poem is divided into two contrasting but connected parts. Part 1. The Vultures. Achebe begins the poem with a grim image of two vultures. These scavenger birds are seen perched on a dead tree in the aftermath of a rainy day. The sky is still gray, and the setting is gloomy and desolate. The vultures are described as having bashed-in heads and gross feathers, evoking disgust and decay. Despite their grotesque appearance, the vultures are affectionate with each other, nestled together with tenderness. Achebe points out that even these birds, creatures associated with death and rot, can experience intimacy and companionship. This image sets up the central paradox of the poem. Love can exist in even the darkest places. Part 2. The Commandant. The second part of the poem shifts focus abruptly to a human example, a Nazi concentration camp commandant. Achebe describes how this man, after overseeing the daily operations of mass murder and genocide, goes home in the evening and buys sweets for his child. Here, the poem reaches its emotional and philosophical climax. Achebe draws a chilling parallel between the vultures and the commandant. Like the birds, the commandant is a creature of death. His job is rooted in cruelty and destruction. Yet he, too, is capable of love and tenderness toward his family. This duality unsettles the reader. How can someone who participates in evil also express genuine affection? Achebe is not suggesting sympathy for the commandant but rather challenging the reader to face the complexity of human nature. Final reflection. The paradox of love and evil. In the closing lines, Achebe reflects on this disturbing reality. He asks whether love is the twinkle of hope in the darkness, or if it is just a part of the evil itself, a disguise or delusion. The poem ends ambiguously, offering no clear answer, but instead leaving the reader to ponder the relationship between tenderness and brutality. Themes and analysis. 1. The duality of human nature. The central theme of Vultures is the coexistence of love and evil within the same being. Achebe challenges the simplistic notion of good and evil as opposites. Instead, he presents them as interwoven, often coexisting within the same creature or person. The vultures are ugly, ominous, and associated with death, but they show tenderness. The Nazi officer is responsible for unspeakable atrocities but still buys candy for his daughter. These contrasts force the reader to rethink the moral boundaries we often assume are clear. 2. The nature of evil. Achebe explores how evil is often ordinary and humanized. The Nazi commandant is not portrayed as a monster, but as a man with daily routines, who performs both horrific and tender actions. This makes evil more disturbing, not something distant or supernatural, but embedded in everyday life. The poem suggests that evil is not always devoid of emotion, that people who commit atrocities can also feel love. This idea is echoed in many Holocaust writings and psychological studies, and Achebe captures it in stark poetic form. 3. Love in the midst of horror. Achebe doesn't only focus on horror. He is also interested in how love persists, even in dark places. The vulture's affection and the father's care for his child are examples of love in unlikely forms. The poem questions whether this love redeems the evil, or if it merely makes it more chilling. This paradox is never fully resolved in the poem. Instead, Achebe leaves the reader with a sense of unease, reflecting the emotional and moral complexity of the real world. 4. War and historical trauma. While the poem references Nazi atrocities, it was also written during the Nigerian Civil War, when Achebe witnessed mass suffering and violence in his own country. The poem's universal message is grounded in personal and historical reality, and its themes resonate across cultures and conflicts. By invoking the Holocaust, Achebe connects African experiences of violence to global history, showing that evil and suffering are not confined by geography. Style and language. Achebe's language in Vultures is deliberately stark, visceral, and unsettling. His imagery is drawn from decay and death, bashed in head, fumes of human roast, and he pairs this with moments of unexpected tenderness. This jarring contrast is what gives the poem its emotional power. There is no regular rhyme or rhythm, reflecting the chaos and disorder of the themes. Achebe uses enjambment and fragmented sentences to create a rhythm that mimics thought and reflection rather than musicality. The poem's tone is dark, ironic, and meditative, especially in its final lines, where the poet turns from description to philosophical questioning. Conclusion. Chinua Achebe's Vultures is a powerful meditation on the ambivalence of human morality. Through disturbing contrasts between love and cruelty, ugliness and affection, fatherhood and genocide, Achebe challenges us to confront the deep and uncomfortable truths about human nature. The poem does not offer comfort or resolution. Instead, it leaves the reader with questions about goodness, evil, and the capacity for both in all of us. It reminds us that monsters may also love, and that this fact is not redemptive but profoundly disturbing. Ultimately, Vultures is a haunting and thought-provoking work, one that forces readers to look beyond appearances and wrestle with the moral contradictions of the human soul.